There used to be, on Christmas cards, 100 or so years ago, robins. And there's the story of the robin in the manger, who apparently was in the rafters above the manger. A brown robin who watched the wise men come with their gifts, and the shepherds come and kneel. And although he didn't really understand what was going on, he knew there was something special about this child. And as the night went on and the fires that were heating the manger area gradually dimmed, it said he flew down and fanned the flames of the fire with his wings so that Christ's child would stay warm. And while he did this, the flames came close to him and singed his breast. And that's why you have a red-breasted robin today. It said that this animal, this bird, sacrificed himself to the one who would sacrifice himself for everyone. When you hear stories like that, and you watch the movies around Christmas, and you watch the TV ads and all the things that you see, you get the impression that Christmas must have been a very peaceful, quiet time. And on Christmas Eve, when everything finishes, there's a hush that develops that's not like any other night. So we get the impression that the manger scene must have been very quiet and peaceful and similar to that. But history tells us it was entirely different. Will Durant, in his book, The Age of Civilization, The Story of Civilization, wrote this. This was the world in which Christ was born. He said, this lusty peninsula, the peninsula that Christ was born out with 20 years of civil war. Its farms had been neglected, its towns had been sacked or besieged. Much of its wealth had been stolen or destroyed. Administration and protection had broken down. Robbers made every street unsafe at night. Highwaymen roamed the roads, kidnapped travelers, and sold them into slavery. Trade diminished, investment stood still, interest rates soared, property taxes fell. Morals, which had been loosened by riches and luxury, had not been improved by destitution and chaos. For few conditions are more demoralizing than poverty that comes after wealth. Rome was full of men who had lost their economic footing and then their moral stability. Soldiers who had tasted adventure and had learned to kill. Citizens who had seen their savings consumed in the taxes and inflation of war and waited vacuously for some returning tide to life to lift them back to affluence. Women dizzy with freedom, multiplying divorces, abortions, and adulteries. This is the world into which Christ was born. And he came essentially unannounced, except for the prophecies, which few people believed, and even fewer paid attention to. It is said that Christ will come again unannounced, except for the prophecies that had been there from the beginning. It says in Matthew, the disciples asked Christ in Matthew, what will be the sign of your coming? And Jesus said, there will be wars and rumors of war. Now it's interesting, a few years before Christ himself was born, there was war. Probably the largest war that had ever been seen on earth up to this point in time. You see, the Roman nation was divided after the death of Julius Caesar. And it was divided primarily into two factions, one led by Antony and the other by a man named Octavian. And after a battle in Actium, these two forces met. Antony was helped by the forces of Cleopatra of Egypt. And the war comprised almost 800 vessels, almost 200,000 soldiers, and about 40,000 cavalry. It was a huge battle. And this had been brewing for some time, but it was won by Octavian. Octavian became the emperor of Rome. Now back in Matthew it said, many will be offended, and many will be not loving one another, hating one another. False prophets will arise in my name. When Jesus first came, Octavian became Caesar. And he had the Roman Senate pronounce him by a new title, Caesar Augustus. Augustus means divine. Octavian became a divine emperor, became God to his people. He did bring forth administration. He did bring forth stability. And he brought forth a peace. It's said in Revelation that the Antichrist will bring forth peace for a while, but only for a while. It also said that the Antichrist will be the ruler of the entire world under Satan for a while. Octavian was the ruler of the entire known world at that time. It was all under Rome. And he declared himself a god. It was his need for taxation that led him to bring forth the decree that all the world should be taxed. The decree that led Joseph and Mary to Bethlehem. It was not a fancy world. It was not a pleasant world. It was not a nice world when Christ was born. In many ways, it's not a pleasant world or a nice world today. And we are threatened with war all the time. But Christ came the first time very inconspicuously, very quietly, unobtrusively. And it's interesting that the first announcement that went out went to the shepherds. They were Jewish. They're of the lowest class of Jewish society. They were uneducated and they were poor. The lowest pieces of humanity at that time. That was the first announcement that went out. And the second announcement that we know of went to the wise men. They were Gentiles. They were rich. They were at the highest class of their society. And they were well educated. And both came and bowed before Christ. The invitation is open to everyone, from the lowest to the highest, from the wealthiest to the poorest, from the most educated to the least educated. The invitation is open to everyone. All we have to do is come and bend our knee and accept it. The time is coming when there will be a second coming of Christ. We don't know when, but the ideas are favorable anytime. There will be wars, rumors of wars. Men will be deceived, and many will come in his name saying that they are Christ. But only the one true Christ is the one we have to bow to. Yes. The wise men bowed to him, the poor men bowed to him. What's keeping us? Just something to think about this Christmas.